of all, the module for today, there's this correlation coefficient game. I would like everybody to click on that. And yours is going to look different than mine, but I just want to explain what a correlation coefficient is. When we do this stuff on the calculator, there is going to be something called the correlation coefficient that shows up. And the correlation coefficient just says how strong of a X to Y, basically like how all of the points are close to being a line or not. The stronger the correlation is, the higher the number, but the highest possible number is 1. So think more of it being maybe like a percentage where 1 would be 100%. So 1 is the highest. Now, some of them are negative. Negative just says it's going downhill instead of uphill. So -1 would be the highest negative. So everything has got to be between -1 and 1. 0 would be basically a bunch of dots everywhere that had no sort of pattern whatsoever. So if it's got a pattern, then it's going to have a strong correlation. Correlation is used to predict. We're doing something from data science, which is a career that many people are either involved in or deal with people that use data science. Like this kind of data we find, we see a plot, and then we use that to find an equation so that we can make predictions, right? Like they, in our school system, I don't know if you know this, but they're trying to decide what new buildings they should build for the future. Well, they can decide, because of statistics, we know that there is going to be this many kids in 2020 or whatever. It's 2020, 2030, my bad. We're going back in time. But anyway, so like we use data to predict what we're going to need. Ooh, you want to hear the craziest data ever? Maybe not ever, but in Indiana, and I don't know if it's still a thing, but Indiana, they would use how many kids couldn't pass a reading test in 4th grade. They would use that data to decide how many jail cells they would need. Yes, because there is a correlation between education and crime. There is a correlation between people who did not get a good education who turned to crime. Well, if you can't read by 4th grade, when do you learn how to read? That's what they determined. And this is people using data science to figure it out. And you wonder why we're sitting here saying, learn your stuff, because we don't want you to end up in the crime situation because you don't have anything else to do. Okay. Anyway, that's an interesting use of data. Okay, so we're going to guess the correlation coefficients. I'm doing mine up here. You guys can help me with it. But for the 4, what are these, like correlation coefficients, we just have to guess what's what. So right now, I can see that this one is the only one that's, nope, I lied. This one looks closest to being a line. Also, it's going uphill. So I'm looking for a positive number that is closest to the number 1. So I'm going to pick 9.7. Okay. This one below it is also going uphill, but that one's not as good. It doesn't look as close to being a line. So I'm going to pick 0.8. Out of these two, they're both negative. The top or bottom, which one looks more like a line? The bottom. So that one I'm going to pick 9.3, where the top is going to be negative 0.35. And then I'm going to check my answers, and it says, yay, I got them all right. Last bill, I didn't get them all right. Try it yourself once or twice just to see if you understand the correlation coefficient. Once you've tried it once or twice to see how you do, then make sure your notes are open. And if you're getting a bunch wrong, you may need to try it a few more times. Oh, I know, right? That's why I missed some of them, because they were so close. All right, if anybody is getting all of them wrong and has no idea what's going on, we need to ask questions. If it's because it's a 0.8 and a 0.79 and you missed it, don't worry about that. As long as we have the general idea of what a correlation coefficient tells us, it basically tells us, can we predict data with this? Okay. So now I'm going to the notes, and what I did was I spent a long time to go through all the steps for number one. So just so you know, if I zoom, like scroll all the way down, there's actual exercises. There's like, I don't remember, 10 of them. So I typed all that up. There's 10 of these. I'm going to go through number one with you, and there's some stuff written which we will get to. Please don't just copy it down, but there's some stuff written. I promise we'll get to that part. I just want to introduce you to the question that we're going to answer. The table is the total estimated number of United States AIDS cases by year of diagnosis. So AIDS was like a major big thing back in the 80s and 90s. So this is still 90s to early 2000s. These are the year compared to the AIDS cases. So our input, our X values would be the years, and then our output would be how many cases we have. So we're going to come back to that, but I do have it copied above so we don't have to keep scrolling up and down. The other thing I want to show you is that at the end of this, we're going to find two regression equations. We're going to find two correlation coefficients. And then at the end, we have to predict how many cases for 2006. So that's what we're doing, but we're going to do it all using our calculator. So I'm going to go back up. This first thing that we do, you only have to do one time, because unless you're not using your calculator, which is why I screenshotted it. So if you're not using your calculator, you'll have to do it when you get to your calculator. Or if for some reason it disappears on your calculator, you could still get it back by looking at these notes. So I have written there, you will need to do second zero. So you will need to click second zero. I'll show you where that is since I am making a video, but second and then zero, and that's catalog. After that, you're going to click the X to the -1 button that has a D at the top of it, and it jumps you to the Ds. And then you're going to arrow down until you find diagnostic on. If you do not follow because you're doing other things or sleeping, I'm not going to wait for you to catch up. If your person sitting next to you is dozing off, poke them a couple times. Okay, once you find diagnostic on, you hit enter, and then you hit enter again, and it will say done, and that's how we know we're done. Okay? So then the next thing, so that's, you should only have to do the one time. You should only have to do the one time. Okay, but it says exactly what to do. What this is doing is getting us the correlation coefficient. That's the only thing it does. It won't show up if you don't do that. Okay, now we're going to go through the screenshots. If I go too slow for you, you can read ahead and go ahead of me. That's totally fine. The only thing I would say is if you have an 83, if you have a TI 83, which I know you are borrowing one, and do you have an 83? Move your hand. Yeah, you have one. Does anybody else have an 83 in here? No. It has a yellow shift or second button. It has a yellow second button. If you have the 83, when we get to a certain spot, it's going to be different.
All right. Good afternoon, Firebird.
And we're interrupted.
It is time.
Okay. So I'm just going to keep going.
What we need is for students that have a ticket.
Oh my gosh.
To their teacher.
So we're going to do stat and choose edit.
To come down to the gym, students will enter on the student section side across from the weight room.
So I clicked stat and choose edit. So I'm doing it, but you guys have a screenshot if I go too fast. Stat edit. Now I have stuff in there. You might not have stuff in there. I want to show you how to clear it. Now, after you do this the first time, you will have stuff in there. So this will be in the video. I did not think to put it in the notes. So if you guys want to write what to do to clear out what's in L1 or L2, you can just write down in your own words, because I didn't think to make that as a screenshot. So it will be in the video. If you have stuff in the list, what you want to do is you want to use your arrow and go all the way up to the L1 or the L2. Then you're going to hit clear. and then you're going to hit enter, and it will clear everything that you have there. So we want to clear it out. So if there was already stuff there, you can do it. If you're done and you're going to do number 2, there will be stuff there, so we'll have to clear it out. Okay, so then it will look completely clear, and that's what my second screenshot looks like. It says to fill in your X values in L1 and your Y values in L2, and then I have those values written right here, so you don't have to scroll all the way back down to the table. So you can just look right there in your notes. And now I'm going to do the same thing, so I'm going to stop talking for a moment. Mm-hmm. When you're done typing those in, just double check you typed them incorrectly. When I first was making my screenshots, because I'm using the computer one, it's easy for me to not type it in right. So just double check that your numbers are correct. Okay, once you've got those typed in, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a scatter plot. All right, I'm going to go through the steps that are screenshotted here. I'm going to talk through them. I'm going to show you while I do it, but all the screenshots are there. We're going to go to first y equals, and if there's anything in there, please clear anything in there that's there. Y equals, top corner. Yep. And then what we're going to do is second y equals. And you'll see this stat plot. We're going to just choose number 1. And one thing that doesn't automatically happen is it's not always turned on, and it's probably turned off. So you need to go on top of the on and hit enter so that the dark background is on and not on off. The rest of this stuff should be the same as mine. So if you had anything different on yours, please change it. If you've never used this, it's probably the same as mine. Other than the color, because that would be, if some of you don't have color ones, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and look at our window. And before you do the window and before I do the window, I just want to show you when I picked the window, I was using this table and I was looking at my L1, my X values, and it started in 1999. It went to 2003, except I needed to predict for 2006. That's in the question. So I chose my X values that would definitely have 1999 through 2006 in it. I'll show you my X values in a moment. They are on the screenshot. And then for my Y values, I just found like the lowest Y value to the highest Y value. And I picked numbers that would include those in the middle. So the numbers that I chose were, and when you hit window, you can choose your numbers to be the same, or you could make them different if you want. But the numbers I chose were 1998 to 2010 for my X's, and my Y's are 40,000 to 45,000. And then when you see X scale or Y scale, I had to add this on because I don't have that typed up anywhere. But the scale is what, like the little tick marks are counting by on the axes. So since I'm going for 40,000 to 45,000, that's like 5,000. I wasn't going to have 5,000 tiny little numbers there. So I just made it go by 500ths. And that's really not that important, the scale. So you go to window and just make sure, I think I already have mine done. Make sure that you've got all that set up. Okay. Okay, and then after you do that, the next thing you're gonna do is click graph. Now, we are going to do work for linear and work for quadratics, but I put a question there in the notes. Does this look more like a line or more like a parabola? Okay, we'll find out for sure which model best is best used to predict this data. We'll find out for sure because we're going to do both. All right. So now I'm going to show you how we find the actual equation of the prediction model, the line or the parabola that predicts it. So this says press stat again. I'm going to do it on mine. Press stat, and then we're going to arrow over to calculate. We will do both. We will do both 4 and 5, but you can only do one at a time. So we're all going to do number 4 together. You can either arrow down or you literally can, I can't talk, literally can press the number 4, but it says linrig. It means linear line regression. And the one underneath it, number 5, is quadratic regression. Those are the two that we're going to be using. So either 4 or 5. We're going to choose 4. And this is where, well, he left. This is where anybody with an 83 is going to be different. So I'm going to go through the 84 steps, and then I'm going to go over the 83 steps. Everybody in here has an 84 in my room right now. You have an 83. Justin. But if you have an 84 at home, you're going to want to use the steps on this, but since you're borrowing mine. Did you have a question? Okay. All right, so I'm going to go through the steps of the 84. So you're going to have to just pause. All right, you're going to go down till you get to, oops, I went too far, till you get to store regression equation. And then I'm using what is in my screenshots. I'm just doing it. We're going to hit vars, and that is red right now. You can see the button vars. And then we're going to arrow over once to y vars. Function is what we're going to choose. So you can either click 1 or you can click enter. And then for the lines, I want you to choose Y1. When we do parabolas, I want you to choose Y2. So this is a line. We're going to choose Y1. And you'll see it says store regression equation Y1. Then we're going to arrow down and then hit enter to calculate. This is where the screen is. I'm going to pause on the 84, and I'm just going to write down the steps for the 83. I don't actually, I might be able to show the 83 steps. Nope, they don't even have an 83. Never mind. I'm going to have to write down the steps for the 83. So let's see, where are we for the 83? If you have an 83, the first thing that you're going to do after you do this is you're going to hit enter. And after you hit enter, now you guys who have the 84s, you can work ahead of me. Like you can read and work ahead if you'd like. I'm going to go through it when I'm done going over the 83s, but you can work ahead. So after you've chosen number 4, you hit enter, you will have something that shows up that looks exactly like this. You won't have the step in the middle where you go to vars. So it's going to go straight to that. So after we go there, the next thing you have to do is you have to click the Y equals button in the top corner right here. You have to click the Y equals button. After you click the Y equals button, make sure you're in Y1 for lines or Y2 for parabola, for quadratic. So it just depends, you know, what step you're doing. But right now we're doing the lines. So you'd be in Y1. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to click vars, which is vars right here. And then under vars, you are going to click, I think it's statistics. I'm just double checking on my calculator that you can't see on my screen. Yep. So then you're going to choose number 5, which is statistics. That's the next thing you're going to choose. And then you're going to arrow over until you get to EQ at the top. And then after you get to EQ, you're going to choose number 1, which is regular equation. And after that, it should take you back to y equals, and there will be an equation typed in y1. Did you follow me? Is it there? Okay. So after that, you will now be ahead of the other group. Okay, so you guys, before you move on, I mean, you've already moved on, but before you do move on, when you do this yourself, when we get this data, which I've copied for you, and if yours is different on your calculator, you've typed something in wrong. When we get this data, this is telling us the equation of the line. So at this part, now you're going to write down for question number 1 below the equation of the line. The equation is y equals ax plus b. Y equals ax plus b. I'll help you. So the a, it tells you a is 365.2. So I do 365.2, then I do x, then I do plus. Well, b is negative. B is negative, so I'm not really going to do plus. Oopsies. I'm going to do minus instead. And then I write my b value, 689,182. So that's the equation of the line that makes that data. That's the equation of the line. And our correlation coefficient, the correlation coefficient is R, which is 0.634-ish. And that tells me it's somewhere in between 0 and 1, but it's not the greatest prediction of data. So you're putting that down. I already have it written down there. So you're putting that down in your question, your answer to number 1. Okay, going back up. The next thing you're going to do once you have your equation written down, after you do that, then it says click y equals, and now you're going to see the graph, and you will see the line. What was your problem?
I was trying to go in order, but
You were fine. You just hadn't hit graph yet. Okay, do we have it graphed? Got it graphed? Does anybody need any help? Does anybody have any issues? Bring it here. You got an issue, bring it here. I'm going to fix his issue, but the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to repeat steps. I did not make new screenshots for repeating everything we just did. So if you don't remember what we just did, you can go back up. I am making a video right now, so I will actually do the steps on here. So you can also follow along with my video, but I didn't redo all the steps. What we're going to do now is we're going to do everything except for we're going to do quadratic regression instead of linear regression. So we're going to find a parabola instead of a line. What's your question?
So I have all this, and when I press graph, it's an empty graph.
Right, because you never turned on. You never turned on the plot. See where it says on, but it's not on.
Okay.
So let's see. Okay. And then it looks like you never did the copying equation part. That where you have to store and you have to hit bars. I'm doing it for you right now, but this is the part you didn't do. Function that, enter. Now it should be there. There you go. Okay. So now I will rework through this. There's stuff written down here. But the one thing that you really need to know is when we do this a second time, we're not choosing Y1 anymore. We're choosing Y2. So I'm going to go through stat, and then I'm going to go calculate. And this time I'm choosing the number 5, quadratic regression. And it's going to bring up the screen. And I'm going to go vars, yvars, function number 2. And I'm going to calculate that. As soon as I calculate that, before I do anything else, this gives me my equation. So the A, the B, and the C are standard form for quadratic equation. It tells you what A, B, and C are. You need to put those in, and you need to write them down. So you're going to want to scroll all the way down to number 1. And for your quadratic, you're going to want to copy down this equation. There's one more thing that I want you to notice about this. And actually, I think I have it on the screenshot too, so I can. Yeah, so this r squared, that's the correlation coefficient for parabolas, the r squared. So this is about 0.903. That's a lot closer to 1 than the line was. So because it's a lot closer to 1, that means this is a better predictor model than the line. Oh, you're gonna, okay. So I didn't copy it all down because it's hard for me to scroll back up and down and stuff like that. I remember the correlation coefficient was 0.903, I believe. And then the equation that's right here, I do have it written here. It's just a bunch of long numbers. Make sure you have y equals. You've got your A value, then x squared. You've got your B value, then x plus your C value. Question? You're going to have to come here. I don't know which one. Sorry. I don't know where you are. No, I'll take it. Hold on a second. Oh, you have to go vars.
Okay.
Then y vars.
My bars. What's that?
Arrow over.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then we go function, enter.
Okay.
And then y2.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, once you get there, both equations are in your y equals. So I'm going to y equals. Okay. Both of your equations are there. And I didn't actually have to copy it over myself. That's what that vars thing does, is it copies the equation in for you. But I don't want to look at both at the same time. So I'm going to arrow and I'm going to hit enter. So what I just did is I turned off the equation that was the line. I just turned it off because I only want to look at, you can look at both at the same time, but if you don't have a color calculator, it's not pleasant to look at both at the same time. Yep. So then I'm going to hit graph and I can see, ooh, I definitely think this matches a lot better than the line. Matches through all those points. So once you've decided which one works better, now we're going to predict. So you guys, if you decided that the line worked better, you could go turn off the quadratic and turn on the line and turn on the line instead if you felt that that one worked better. But we're doing this one together. We decided the quadratic works better. So that's why I only have the quadratic on. So to predict, it says predict when the year is 2006. The years are my X values. This is how we predict. Do second trace, and there's a screenshot for that, second trace, and we choose value. Value is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It says, what do you want X to equal? And we said 2006. So I type in 2006, I hit enter, and it does math for me very fast. It plugs in 2006 into the equation, and it gives me a Y value, 51,347 cases. And I rounded that to the nearest case because those are people. We don't have 0.4 people. Okay. If you get the wrong value, it's possible that you typed something wrong in originally. Okay. I'm not worried about you getting it 100% this moment. I just worry about you learning how to do this stuff, okay? All right, so then our final answer would be in 2006. There's about 51,347 cases. Does anybody remember the number? 51,000. Nah, I'm not putting part of a person. That's not nice. I mean, rounding it or putting decimals, either would be fine because yes, there's not part of a person, but it's an approximation anyway. So this stuff, you will have to do this on your exam. This is the only day I'm going over it in class. It's not on a test or a quiz. So I've made you lots of practice. I was actually hoping we'd get further, but we didn't. But I've made you lots of practice. I will get an answer key one of these days and just use this as studying for your exam, for this stuff. Because if you don't remember how to do it on the exam, I'm not going to teach you how to do it on the exam. So you just need to know how to do it already. And I don't know if you found it helpful, but if you want to find the equation, you can use this. Very, very quick and helpful. You could use it on your ACT and SAT. What?
So on the exam, are you going to give us the table? And then
I will give you a table.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's an example similar to what's going to be on the exam in the exam review, but I think there's only one. And we never tested on this. So that's why I have extra practice for you guys.